Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview Sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be with Adam Robinson from retention.com. Adam, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did retention get started?
So I owned an email marketing company before this. It was called Robley Email Marketing. It was that market's a very interesting one. It's like selling cola a little bit. Like there's these two dominant brands, and then there's a bunch of people who are like stuck or 2-3 million of revenue. Very hard to compete. It's very mature, very entrenched vendors. And I was always trying to figure out a way that I could do something different than what the big entrenched vendors were doing. And I had heard that the technology existed to where somebody could land on your website, not fill out a form, and you could match that to an email address.
Yes, a pen. There are a number of different providers of that now.
Exactly. Well, so it took me a year and a half as someone in the email ecosystem, and this was like, I heard about it for the first time, I think the end of 2016. And I was like, I got to figure out how to do that. Maybe it's the end of 2017. I mean, that's more like it. End of 2017. Took me a year and a half to figure out how to do it. We started it as a feature in the email marketing app. And then it was clear people were using that feature, not using the rest of the app, and being like, this is amazing. That was the sexy
new feature, right?
Yeah, this is amazing. So it was clear we needed to spin that out, make it its own thing, and then sell the other company. And that is where it came from.
All right. So you were appending, maybe reverse appending IP addresses, or doing some other way of getting that same information to help people market to visitors on the website who didn't opt in, which is obviously a significant percentage. How did you go from that to what you're doing now?
So that is still kind of the backbone of what we do. We 2.5. So it started as like a self-serve app that anybody can. A lot of these SaaS companies, I think, do. It's like sign up. It's $9 a month or whatever. 2 years in, we realized that really successful Shopify stores were like unbelievable customers for us. So we started building more features for them. And now it's kind of like a combination of that product and then using the same identity mechanism that we use for that product to expand audiences of cart abandonment emails and product abandonment emails and stuff like that. And these bigger Shopify stores, like I'd say over 3 million or 5 million in revenue, they really have the perfect combination of site traffic, email list size. They're good at converting, email's a significant part of their business. They're just the perfect customer. So we're focused on these direct consumer guys, and soon we'll go up market, and that's it.
Awesome. So in addition to the helping them capture and build relationships with site visitors who may not necessarily opt in or buy something, talk a little bit. You're talking about a subset of that for the cart abandonment series. Can you do like a little bit of a deeper dive in terms of the array of what you're doing? Sure.
So I already spoke about what we'll call the top of the funnel product, which was the original product we sold. We a problem that exists for e-commerce stores, which a lot of them are not aware of, is that in order to send these highly lucrative cart abandonment emails, the user actually has to be logged in to their store, which like you're logged into Amazon, but like you're not logged into like joeschmosocks.com, right? Ever, right? Never, right? So 85% of people that are actually putting things in the cart and leaving are not logged in. So there's two different types of people that we recognize. One are people that are on their list and on a different device than the device that was last logged in. Or there's like this problem of cookie fatigue. Safari, and the average cookie length now is 7 days. So these, you know, you don't stay logged in for very long anymore. And then there's the people like the top of the funnel that they don't, the brand doesn't actually have an opt-in for, and we have a third-party opt-in for. So we have implied consent, and we can sort of trigger these flows. So it's just using that same, you know, as many different identity mechanisms as possible to, you know, send a different type of messaging. Basically, it's kind of different, but kind of the same, you know.
Talk about, so if we're talking about, let's say, an abandoned cart sequence, you're obviously not the first person to come up with that. You're appending and then doing it, but you've got a better, I mean, you've done it better. Can you give us any, I know you've got shoeboxes full of case studies and testimonials. Can you give us an example of, hey, this was a company that came to us, a Shopify store or whatever. This is what they were doing before us. This is what we're doing. And this is kind of like the magical transformation we've been able to engineer.
Sure. So the whole thing we're doing is we're just expanding the audience of people these messages are going to. So we're not getting in there and changing the creative or anything. We're just saying, you were going to send these to 10 people. Now you're going to send them to 30. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there's this big Shopify store called BlendJet. They're doing over 100 million revenue. It's a personal blender. It's a cool product. So 30 days after implementing this technology, they were making $150,000 a month in their abandoned cart. And the incremental that we drove was $170,000 in 30 days. So over double as effective from just turning this on. And it's like a 3-hour install. So it really works, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say that's one heck of an ROI.
Yeah, it's like
on time.
incredible. And he's, you know, paying us $5,000 a month or something. It's like an
you should
ROI.
have gotten a percentage of the upside.
Yeah, you know, I've thought about that. I thought it was kind of a more, it's just a more dominant pricing model to like have these people just doing unbelievably well and talking about it. You know, they can't help but talk about how incredible it is. So
I am sure
we'll see
you're
if it
getting
pans out.
I think it will. What do you think in terms of what are some of the biggest mistakes people, you know, whether it's in a Shopify store or e-commerce or a product or service provider, what do you think some of the biggest mistakes they're making are when it comes to not just the cart abandonment, but also, let's say, the follow-up and retargeting of site visitors?
I will say, so there's some feelings that human beings have about certain things. One of the feelings that I have observed is that even if a brand has captured the phone number of someone that has said that they are okay getting marketed to, they feel that that is impolite and they don't do it. I totally disagree with this. I think that like, if someone gives you a phone number, you shouldn't hit them with SMS all the time, but if they're looking at something on your website and they leave and you send them an SMS with a link back to that product, you will be mind blown at how well that does. And again, you can't spam people, you know, you have to be much more careful with SMS, but I have seen that more. I've been surprised by the amount that I've seen it. And then just, I think a misunderstanding of the perceived brand damage that sending an email to someone who is just on your website will do if they haven't opted in. A very common thing is for brands to say, well, won't that hurt my brand if someone didn't opt in, to just like hit them with an email? And I think B2B is a bit different with the email etiquette, but like this is definitely a thing that pops up from time to time in B2C. And I had one of our best customers. It's this brand called Dr. Squatch. They sell soap, and they sold for $800 million, their company.
That's a lot of soap.
Yeah, a lot of soap. And Cody Griffin, the VP of marketing, said, well, when I was thinking about the brand effect, I thought about what was actually in my promotions folder at that time. And if I was just on a brand's website and I saw an email pop into that promotions folder, it's probably actually, I would care more about that than anything else in the promotions folder at the time. So I think that's a good way to think about what potential brand damage it's actually doing. Yeah.
And I might not be the same mental. I mean, I would come at it from a different angle. I would think, if we steal the old J. Abraham quote, which was, if you believe in what you do, you have a moral obligation to do as much as you humanly can to get someone to take advantage of your offer. So I would say I would rather push too far and find out when the line is, when people say, hey, you can stop now, and go one step back from that, as opposed to never finding out and never taking the risk at all. I think any perceived brand damage is probably more on the opinion of the brand than the customers going, how dare you send me an email? I mean, the odds of them going, how dare you send me an email about something I just looked at? I think Amazon has educated everybody pretty much as to what retargeting is now, because you go look at something and then it shows up in an ad on ESPN.com 10 seconds later.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, but
you're right. I'm preaching to the choir.
I'm just telling you what I see from time to time, which I think are big oversights.
So other than not doing it at all, are there any common mistakes you see when you're like, I can't believe this is the 17th time this month I've seen someone do X wrong?
It's a great question. I mean,
what drives you crazy?
What drives me crazy about this ecosystem we're selling into?
What drives you crazy that people don't do that they should do?
I mean, I think every single brand should be doing this that has over like 3 million in revenue. And it literally drives me crazy that everyone isn't using our products. So I'm probably this person that you described that is, I mean, here I am talking about it on a podcast, right? Like,
when you get brought in, what do you see on a regular basis that you're like, let's say you get brought in, the next 10 companies are all doing something, right? They have an abandoned cart sequence. What do you see commonly that you're like, I can't believe they're doing it and they're screwing it up? Are they not referencing the fact that someone's been on their website? Do they blow that a lot and not say, hey, we were holding this for you?
So yeah, I mean, I think that the nice thing about our product is that the best, actually, I know one. Here we go. So everybody's got an abandoned cart set up that has a Shopify store.
We hope.
So this email vendor, Klaviyo, they all use Klaviyo, and Klaviyo forces you to set one up. So
there you go.
So there you go. What it doesn't force you to set up is an abandoned product flow. So when someone doesn't actually put something in the cart, but they're looking at a product and they leave, like, you should be emailing them that product right then. So I would say, 80% of the brands we see don't have that set up yet. And so we set it up for them, and like, we can expand the audience. That is the thing that most people are messing up, that we see more than anything. Took me a while. Sorry.
That's okay. I had to ask the question more than one way. Maybe it was me. So you've got you've got clients in hundreds, thousands of different industries selling different things, right? They might, if every single one has a Shopify store, somebody might be selling sneakers and somebody else might be selling t-shirts and somebody else might be seeing sore throat spray.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep your finger on the pulse of everything going on in the world of, let's say, Shopify and online marketing, and maybe even some of those higher ticket client industries. How do you stay on top of all of that?
Not well enough is the answer, to be honest. We just grew our company a lot, and it's kind of like getting the systems in place to actually do what we were doing before is the challenge for the first 6 months. Now we're starting to become much more sophisticated about all of this. So, for example, right, like thinking about seasonality with apparel as an example, or, thinking about, which companies won't be good candidates to market to into Black Friday, for example. So yeah, I think it's just, what we're doing is trying to be more intentional about, vertical by vertical, and sort of which months our sales force is targeting which verticals. And that's the attempt that we're making.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You started to reference your team. Talk a little bit about the team that you've built. How are you recruiting and training? Are they remote? Are they physical? Are they both?
Yeah, so we're about 50 people. I'd say 2/3 of it is go to market, so sales and customer success. They're remote. Most of them are in Canada because my co-founder, who's a salesperson, lives in London, Ontario, and certainly doesn't save any money. We have offsites once a quarter for sales and CS, and I'm always on a plane, and but I live in Austin, Texas, and no one else lives here. I prefer to not have my employees in the same office that I'm in, to avoid office politics. I've done it before. It's just, I feel like I'm much more productive. I don't know. But maybe if I was just sitting here on Zoom calls all day, and kind of the last time I did was pre the days of just sitting on Zoom calls all day. So maybe in this area it would be different. I don't know, but I'm never going to find out, because I'm never going to have an office again.
Well, congratulations, or good luck with that. Either or.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it does some things very well and other things not at all. So we proved during COVID that it can be done.
Yes. And then it's the question of how do you you obviously don't want to put the genie back in the bottle. Other people go, how do we put the genie back in the bottle? It's funny. I have had that experience where we've had people say, well, hey, we worked virtual during COVID. Why can't we stay virtual? And I'm like, well, other than the fact that we have a multi-year lease and I'm not paying for nothing, so you need to come in.
Right.
My response, yes, do you have to deal with HR stuff that wouldn't be as much? Yes, of course. And my trade-off is, well, it seems to me we're a lot more, those of us who are in the same location are a lot more productive when we're together. I haven't figured out a way to measure that, but it feels more productive. You have achieved so much success for so many different businesses, including your own. What's your biggest challenge now?
I think scaling companies is not easy. So we're at 20 million ARR, bootstrapped as a SaaS company. I think, getting to 100 is my goal. And the opportunity is right there in front of us, but it is never as clear as it seems before you start.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean, just dealing with, it's like we hired a bunch of people, and then there's a cyclical low time in April and May for this industry. And this was a very severe one relative to prior years, just for whatever reason, recession, like, I don't know. So it's like we got a bunch of people, and we got, they were far more productive when they were untrained than when they knew what they were doing. Right. So like, and people who have done this before are not surprised to hear that. Right. It's like you just lose so much efficiency when you got all this stuff going on. So yeah, I mean, figuring out how to get the ship, and it's showing signs, but like get it, slowly moving back in the right direction is the biggest challenge right now, for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
I just love the game. I sometimes say that I think entrepreneurship is the most natural way to live. It's just so unforgiving when you're wrong, and just, it's so like exponential when you're right. And it's like I don't even know what the analogy is, like an algae bloom or something when you're right. But like you get absolutely, your species gets removed if you're wrong, so I just think you have to stay sharp. There's always, it's an infinite, building these companies. It's like you're making this structure out of people who, depending on who you put in the place and the system you have around them and the inspiration you give them and what's happening in their lives, which you have no control of, they can either be growing or shrinking, right? So like, you could assemble this structure that everyone is growing while you're building. You could assemble this structure that everyone is shrinking while you're building, or half and half. And that's just like a really interesting, complex thing to be engaged with throughout your life. I think it's, and the rewards are great, but like, it's always more fun when you're doing it, than when you get done. So
it's funny. I was interviewed, my 16-year-old son interviewed me yesterday for a Father's Day edition of my wife's podcast. And what I said to him was, I think there's no greater lab for growing yourself as a person than trying to grow a business, because the highs are high and the lows are lower than anything else I've ever found.
Totally. Yeah. It's great. I mean, I think it's the best way to live if you can sort of figure it out. It's not for everybody, surely.
Absolutely. Otherwise, there'd be no employees. We would all, we would all just be working for ourselves. All right. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. We know you're incredibly busy. For our folks watching and listening who want to learn more about all things retention, where is the best place for us to send them to learn about retention and to learn about you?
So yeah, retention.com is our website, pretty good domain. And I do the most on LinkedIn. I actually create a ton of content. Just Adam Robinson, retention.com, or retention Adam is my handle. And yeah, I mean, I got a docuseries that I'm making called $1 Billion Challenge. That's right there on my page. And I just post a lot of stuff about what's going on. I'm doing a work in public. I post our financials, post our growth rate every month. It's it's a really interesting thing, trying to aggressively scale and be incredibly transparent.
I was going to say, it's not just that by itself is challenging enough, let alone copying the Lem List or Lem Pod or whatever, I forget his name, who was posting their stuff. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's where you got the idea from, but yeah, doing it transparently and publicly takes a whole new level, adds a new level of stress and other things to that. Well, again, this has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Adam Robinson from retention.com. Adam, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening, and we will talk to you or see you next time.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.